Hey everybody, this is Braden coming at you again with another how-to cornhole video. As you know, we are doing this in partnership with MX Cornhole. They reached out to me after seeing some other videos I'd made, asked if I'd be willing to partner with them on a how-to series, and said, why not? Let's see if we can help some people out and just get some more knowledge out there on some different shots and things such as that. Before we keep going with this video, I do have to give a shout out to Mountain Town Cornhole out here in the Salt Lake, Wasatch area here in Utah. This is their facility. We really appreciate them opening this up to us so we could record this video today. If you're ever in the Utah area looking to sling some bags, look up Mountain Town Cornhole. They're running weekly events several days a week out here in the Utah area, and we really appreciate them. That's my local club and just love what they're doing. So check that out. Today, we have how to throw a roll bag. So in our last video, we went through the mechanics and some of the initial tips and tricks to throwing a flat bag. Today, we're going to talk about throwing a roll bag. Last time, we talked about some different grips. First and foremost, if you're looking to throw a roll bag, I would recommend that you master utilizing the butterfly grip. So just as a quick review from our last video, the butterfly grip, if I'm putting the bag here, you're going to pinch the bag in the middle of the bag with your thumb. The back side of the bag, you're going to be looking at something like this, right? Kind of getting a good handful of beads, right? If I were to hold this upside down, it ends up kind of looking like a butterfly. That is why it is called the butterfly grip. The reason that I highly recommend utilizing this grip as your go-to and your normal grip is just when you go to throw a roll shot and to backload your bag, it's going to be a lot less of an adjustment switching grips. Some people do like switching grips. They think it kind of activates some muscle memory there. Whatever works best for you, go ahead and go with that. I just really like to keep it as consistent as possible and have as little variance as possible between all my shots. So I throw the butterfly grip with my normal slide shot, as well as my roll shot and every other shot I throw. So I would definitely recommend that. The reason I would recommend that is it's going to make it a lot easier to get your bag backloaded. If you're not familiar with what a backloaded bag means, so your bag flight, if you're throwing a flat bag towards that board, it's going to look something like this. A backloaded bag means that that front side of the bag, that slick side, should be inverted slightly back to you. What that means is that the beads of the bag are loading in the back of the bag, right? The back load. And how that helps is as the bag approaches like this and the beads are settling in the back, once that bag makes contact with the board, that causes the beads to fling themselves towards the front side. What that causes is that rolling motion we're looking for as they come forward, making the bag hit and roll over that bag and into the hole. There are different ways to throw a roll bag, but the back-loaded roll, in my opinion, is the only way to throw a good, consistent, controllable roll shot. Other variants, like a leaning roll, are dependent on making contact with another bag, are going to be a lot less predictable. If you're really looking to master the roll shot, you should be looking to master a back-loaded bag to throw that shot. The reason that is easier with a butterfly grip is the backload is actually a pretty subtle adjustment to your wrist movement. So if I'm throwing a roll shot, right, I'm going to settle just a little more of the beads into my hand. So for me anyway, I know a lot of people backload it every single time or really settle the beads and then pinch. Me personally, and this is a little bit of an adjustment for me from this last video, I've been messing with my grip a little bit, which is why I've actually re-recorded this video from one that I recorded earlier, is I kind of keep everything flat. I'm going to pinch into the bag here for my normal shot, and I'm going to keep it like this, really flat back, really flat forward. The only adjustment I'm going to make when throwing a roll shot is going to be to settle a little more beads towards the back of that bag. And I'm going to adjust my fingers just a little more towards the edge. So where my normal grip might look like this, right? When I throw that roll shot, my fingers might end up a little more here, a little more towards the back side of that bag. For me, that's just going to make it so that bag is almost a little backloaded already with the way I'm holding it. So then when I release, I'm actually going to pretty much go through my regular progression. The only difference is if you're throwing a normal slide shot, right, you're going to explode your hand out, you're going to keep your palm here. The difference on a roll shot is I'm going to come here and I'm just going to twist my pinky finger more up and just try to end here. Not necessarily ending here. When I first started throwing a roll shot, I would really over exaggerate that movement. It's actually a pretty subtle difference from your slide shot, at least the way that I throw it. There's different ways to throw this. I'm just going through the way that I have learned to throw my roll shot. It's actually going to be a pretty subtle motion. A lot of people have explained it to where it's almost like opening a doorknob. So if you were to grab a doorknob here, right, you're going to twist your wrist, and that's how you're going to open that door. It's kind of similar to a roll shot, right? You're going to get about here. You're going to start bringing that wrist out. And rather than here, you're going to end here. And that's going to cause that backload of the bag. So, as many of us have found, that's a lot easier said than done. And generally, things get worse before they get better. When you're first throwing this shot, you're likely going to have accuracy issues staying in the middle of the board. And that's okay. That being said, be patient with yourself because it can get really frustrating adjusting to this wrist motion and adjusting to this grip. A lot of elite rollers can tell you this is a pretty technical shot, and it takes a little while to master it. We do have young kids, right, that come in and learn how to throw this shot really quickly right away. But I would say more often than not, it's going to take a few months for you to really throw this shot really accurately to the point to where you're really confident rolling over one bag on the board or something like that. Trying to think if there's anything that I've missed with that. As far as mechanics, everything should pretty much be the same. Really, I'm telling you, it's probably not as much of a movement as you think. It's really just a subtle wrist movement to get that bag backloaded. The other tip that I would give you is when I first started trying to throw this shot, I would really try to over-exaggerate my backload, almost to the point to where this bag would be like almost facing me going to the board. While there is some advantages to being able to backload a bag that much, and the more backloaded it is, the more pop you're going to get on the board. What I found is when I'm throwing my roll shot best, it's actually a pretty subtle backload. So if my bag flight's here, my best roll shots are probably only backloaded about that much. That's about all it takes to get that bag to hit and hop, at least with the type of bags that I throw. So the other point that is going to make your life a little easier to throw a roll shot is throwing a stickier bag. Fast bags, are just not going to quite give you enough traction with the board and grip and hit the board and give you the motion that you need as easily. That being said, if you can backload a bag, you can really roll just about anything. But there's a reason that elite rollers are generally throwing some kind of carpet or a hybrid carpet or herringbone carpet bag, is because that little bit of a slower bag is going to give you more friction with the surface of the board. That's going to give you more action for cuts and roll shots. So my bag of choice is going to be the MX Meltdown, which has this herringbone carpet. What I like about this bag is it might not be as easy to roll as traditional carpet bags like the MX Beast, which is also made by MX Cornhole, or maybe a BG Viking, or maybe a Reynolds Pro Advantage. Those traditional carpets are going to be really sticky, are going to give you a lot of friction with the board, and that's going to give you a lot more action and give you a lot more cutting and rolling ability. That being said, that sticky surface is also going to be a lot less hole friendly. I believe that is why you have seen a huge movement this year and are seeing hardly anybody throwing BG Vikings, Pro Advantages, or some of these traditional carpets anymore. Almost all of the players that have been throwing those types of carpets, outside of maybe a Matthew Creek Killer or a Ryan Windsor, and those guys are just elite dirty bag throwers, is because you can get the same action out of a more hole-friendly bag with a herringbone stick side like the MX Meltdown, get the same rolling ability. I can personally roll in a herringbone bag as easily as I can throw a traditional carpet, but it's going to be much more hole-friendly and drip back into the hole easier than those traditional carpets around the board. In no way am I trying to bag on kind of the OG carpets or say that you shouldn't throw them. They are some of the most fun bags to throw. That's just something that I've noticed, and it's kind of been a trend this year, is these hybrid carpet bags, something like a Viper R, MX Meltdown, BG Wizard, are kind of the bags of choice for those that are actually looking to utilize a block and roll play style. And I think it just really comes down to that hole friendliness and the fact that you can still get a lot of good action out of these bags. So, enough yakking for me. I'm going to go ahead and adjust the camera to give us a better angle of the bag flight coming down this way, and we'll get into some shots. All right, we've adjusted our camera angle. Now that I'm good and cold, we're just going to get right into throwing after talking for 10 minutes. Don't want this video to be too long, but... So again, as I'm down here, I'm going to utilize my butterfly grip. I'm going to settle just a little more of those beads back into the joints of my fingers here, just to give me almost a little more of a backload in hand, and almost envision that pinky pushing the slow side of that bag about the same angle as the board down there. And what you'll notice is that it might not be as backloaded as you might think to get that motion. Oh, that was a little off. There we go. That was a little bit of an ugly duck on that last one. But you did see every one of those hopped. The bags 2 and 3 getting into the hole. So, one thing that I always have to focus on is keeping my spin rate up when I throw this shot. You can slow down your spin rate a little bit. That will actually make the bag pop a little more. But elite rollers are going to have about the same spin rate as their normal bag. And so that's something I always try to keep my spin rate high, which is kind of an adjustment for me. It's doing this wrist motion, it tends to want to slow down your bag a little bit. See that bag hop up and over. Oh, didn't hit the right landing spot there. So far, I'm consistent, 2 for 4. But you see, one of the advantages of a roll shot, right, is even if you miss it, you're generally going to stay kind of in the front of the pile. Ideally, if you miss, right, I would have liked that bag to have been here to block a push shot. That is one advantage over a roll than an airmail. Let's just do a few more here. Backload that bag. Just a little over to that left side. Consistent. There we go. See that kind of wheel? I guess 2 for 4 might just be as good as it's going to get today. But you see, that bag, those bags are actually not super backloaded. It's really just kind of a subtle backload. That's enough to give a bag like the MX Meltdown the motion that's going to need to roll over those bags. There. It's kind of an ugly duck, but got there. So, just in review, right, kind of getting down and personal here. That motion with the bag, it's not going to be a huge, have to crank my wrist up, really fling my arm out. The only difference between my normal slide shot here and my roll shot is just that little motion of my pinky coming back and coming here. Really, you don't need to throw a roll shot any harder than you do your normal shot. In fact, if anything, you might want to adjust your flight path a little higher than you might think, and a little higher up the board. So a little higher as far as the height in which it reaches in its flight path, and a little higher up the board. If I'm usually landing here, maybe I want to land a little bit here. The reason being is that's actually going to give me a little more of a controlled rolling motion, where if I'm kind of coming in here and I hit and I pop, I might roll, and if I don't get enough on it, I might end here, right? Or maybe I end here. Both of those are great though. Here I've taken away the push. Here I've taken away the lane and also taken away the push, and now I have hole control. That means that I could potentially roll again and not have to worry about my opponent being able to recover their bags, or I could airmail, short airmail, and try to recover this bag. That's going to be more advantageous than a miss here, like that bag I missed, because if I miss here, obviously that bag is going to be a lot harder to recover. But let's say I had rolled a little farther, I ended up on the back side of the hole, right? Now I'm looking at potentially giving up an and one if somebody wants to get out aggressive. I've made it so my opponent has a little bit of a backboard to work with. And so you would much rather land a little softer here and have that motion here and end somewhere around the hole rather than be too flat here, skip the hole, end up on the backside. So some people might argue with me on that point, but I really think that you have a more controlled motion if you come in a little higher back flight and a little higher up the board. That being said, if anything, you shouldn't really need to adjust how hard you throw the bag. The only reason I would need to throw a roll shot any higher is if I was rolling over maybe a pile like this, where I'm rolling over multiple bags. But if you're just rolling over one bag, your normal flight path and your normal throwing motion should do the trick with that wrist flick. That being said, like I said, this shot can be it's a lot easier said than done. Be patient with yourself as you're looking to master a roll shot. It is doable. Anybody can learn how to throw it. It just takes a lot of practice. And I would say generally it is going to get a little worse before it gets better. If you don't throw a butterfly grip, this is also going to be a little bit of an adjustment for your slide shot. And so, like anything, generally there's a little bit of pain involved with improvement, but stick with it. Stay consistent and really try to master that consistent wrist motion. Even more important than bag flight just more important than the actual toss is just going to be the consistency of the toss. Anything that you can replicate more consistently is the way that you're going to want to roll. No pun intended. So I think that's going to be it for us today. I think I hit all the touch points of a good roll shot. If I've missed anything, please don't hesitate to add something into the comments to help some people out. Like I've said in past videos, I have a good roll shot. I wouldn't say it's an elite roll shot. There's a lot of people that can roll a bag a lot better than I can, but I hope that this knowledge helps in your pursuit of mastering all the shots of cornhole. Until next time, this is Braden with MX Cornhole. We're out.